Welcome back to Best Asian Horror Movies. I'm your host Blinky, and today we're going to be exploring JHorror classic Ringu. We're also going to be comparing it to its American remake, a film which gave me severe childhood trauma, as well as discussing the franchise's legacy and influence. At the end of the video, we're going to give the film our own rating based on story, atmosphere, and face-melting terror. Before we begin, please like and subscribe. Ringu, directed by Hideo Nakata, is arguably the most famous J-horror film of all time. It's been credited with ushering in the golden age of J-horror, and its international impact is still felt to this day. The movie revolves around a mysterious videotape that causes anyone who watches it to die in 7 days. The protagonist, Riko, is a journalist investigating the deaths of her niece Tomoko and several others who all had watched the tape before their horrific demise. After watching the tape herself and realizing her dire situation, she seeks the help of her ex-husband Ryuji, who is revealed to have psychic abilities. During Reiko's investigation, her son Yoichi watches the tape after being manipulated by a vengeful spirit. Their search for the truth behind the video leads them to the volcanic island of Izu Oshima, where they uncover the terrifying legend of Sadako Yamamura, a young girl who is left to die under tragic circumstances. With only days left to live, Reiko must solve the mystery of Sadako's death, or risk losing her entire family to the vengeful spirit's eternal hatred. If you ask any 90s kid what the scariest movie they saw when they were younger was, chances are they'll say The Ring. I distinctly remember watching the film a dozen times during sleepovers, and just how haunting and eerie it was, even on repeat. At the time, I had no idea that it was based on a Japanese film, and I'll say that I'm ashamed it's taken me this long to watch the original, but I'm damn glad that I finally did. Ringu was released in 1998 in Japan, and went on to gross $13 million by the end of its theatrical run. Shortly afterwards, DreamWorks acquired the rights from the Kadokawa Corporation and began to adopt an American version of the film, which would be titled The Ring. While the core themes and narrative were left largely intact, DreamWorks made significant alterations to the setting, culture, and character dynamics in order to better suit Western audiences. By the end of its theatrical run, The Ring would go on to gross more than $250 million, in addition to the millions it received in rentals, largely coming from me and my friends renting it from Blockbuster. Jesus Christ, I'm old. The success of The Ring would see American adaptations of several notable J-horror classics, including The Grudge, Pulse, and Dark Water. It would also see several sequels and serve as one of the main inspirations for cult classic Scary Movie 3. The haunting, ghostly presence of Sadako has been widely imitated, influencing the portrayal of vengeful spirits in subsequent films across numerous countries and subgenres. Its minimalist approach to horror, often relying on unsettling sounds, visual distortions, and slow-building tension, provided a stark contrast to the more visceral and graphic horror films that dominated American cinema at the time. In particular, Ringu helped usher in a new era of psychological horror that sought to disturb and unsettle viewers on a deeper level than just through violence or gore. This shift was seen in films like The Others and The Sixth Sense, which also emphasized atmosphere and suspense over explicit violence and brutality. One thing I noticed at the very end of the film was Reiko's revelation that the only way to survive the curse was by making a copy of the tape and showing it to someone else, repeating this cycle in perpetuity. Now, this motif can also be seen in modern films like It Follows and Smile, nearly 30 years later. Long-lasting impact indeed. The Ring, directed by Gore Verbinski, is the American remake of Ringu. While both films share the same fundamental premise of a cursed videotape, the adaptation introduces several changes to cater to American audiences. One of the most noticeable differences is in the setting. Whereas Ringu takes place in Japan, The Ring is set in Seattle.
Hey baby, I hear the blues are coming.
The plot and character arcs are largely similar, with journalist Rachel Keller investigating the mysterious deaths surrounding the cursed tape. However, The Ring places more emphasis on a procedural mystery narrative, with Rachel working against time to solve the riddle of the curse. The depiction of the cursed videotape remains central to the plot of both films, but the way that it's handled differs stylistically. Ringu relies heavily on subtlety and atmosphere, using the videotape's chilling imagery and slow pacing to build tension. On the other hand, The Ring amplifies the horror through more graphic imagery and jump scares, a reflection of Western horror tropes. Now, after watching Ringu and rewatching The Ring, I think what makes the original so much more effective is what it doesn't do. Ringu doesn't rush into graphic scenes or jump scares, but rather takes his time in building the story and atmosphere. When the phone rings, there isn't a ghostly voice on the other end whispering, 7 days! That was terrible. 7 days! It's just static, which is honestly much more creepy. Ringu also gave much less backstory on Sadako, only showing her through unsettling psychic flashbacks until the very end. The scene where she finally climbs out of the well through the television was so much creepier in Ringu. First and foremost is the way that Rie Inoue moved. Her physical performance was so grotesque and disturbing, it so perfectly captured the essence of an evil, hate-filled spirit, and never showing her face except for the split second where you see her engorged, rage-filled eye made for some truly your pants terror. Showing Samara's full face in The Ring was a mistake in my opinion, especially considering how much CGI was used in this scene. But I will not take anything away from The Ring. It's still one of my favorite horror movies, and it still holds up today. Here at Best Asian Horror Movies, we're going to be rating our films based on 3 criteria: story, atmosphere, and terror, with each category eligible for a maximum of 6 bloody skulls. Now, I'm gonna do my best to stay objective here, because this film is nearly 30 years old, and having seen the American version already countless times sort of ruined many of the surprises for me. Because of this, it was hard to really get pulled into the story already knowing what it was gonna be. But that being said, it is still a very unique plot and premise, and the mystery unravels in such a slick way that I'm still gonna give it 5 bloody skulls. I think this was also slightly spoiled by the American version, which did an excellent job of creating an eerie atmosphere, especially as Rachel makes her way to the island to find Samara's body. The slower pacing in Ringu made for a really satisfying payoff in the end, and seeing so much of Japan through the lens of a horror mystery movie was very cool. The use of ocean waves was a very interesting motif. We see them in the film's opening and then later at the end when they finally reach Izu Oshima, with Sadako's uncle saying that she would just sit there for hours staring out of the ocean, adding to her overall creepiness factor. Waves also come into play later when Reiko and Ryuji are trying to rush back to see Yoichi, but they're trapped on the island by a typhoon. I thought this was a very cool way of using the movie's setting to add to its horror. I'm gonna go with 5 bloody skulls here. It took me a while to come up with the score for this, because there were many factors I had to consider. Now, let me sing the film's praises first so you don't hate me when you hear my final score. It goes without saying that Sadako stole the show. She's portrayed by Rie Inoue, who is a classically trained kabuki theater actress, and she really brought the demonic spirit of Sadako to life. Wait, can you bring a spirit to life? Well, you know what I mean. The scene where she's crawling out of the well and through the TV was actually played in reverse, with Inoue walking backwards when they filmed it, which made her movements all the more creepy. Now, Silent Hill would go on to copy this technique in the scene with the sexy undead nurses, if you remember that. But what really stood out to me were the flashbacks where you get to see a glimpse of Sadako's origins and how this was shown with a dark black and white aesthetic without ever showing her face. And of course the final kill where you get that brief glimpse of her eye, that one shot showing how truly evil and twisted she really is. I mean, this is some really creepy shit. Now, I'm sure that if I was a young Japanese boy watching this film in the early 2000s after my parents went to sleep, it would scare me enough to give it 10 bloody skulls. However, having watched it after seeing the American version so many times, as well as countless horror masterpieces like The Exorcist, The Others, The Wailing, and Terrifier 2, I guess I was just a bit numb going into it. It's scary for sure, but objectively speaking, I can only give it 4 bloody skulls. Sorry, please don't hate me. Alright, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what movie you'd like me to review next, and any feedback for how to make these videos better. Since this is a new channel, please just let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Bye.